Welcome, everybody. Good morning. It's Monday, and we have M cubed here. We've got Mando, we've got Marty, and we've got Mopbot. The three M's. It's just not by design. It's completely random. No such thing as coincidence. Who knows? I don't know. But we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today. Every week, we try and get a different flavor of what's going on, and we try to get the pulse on what's freaking people out there in the market. And that definitely is where we are right now. People are very worried about missing the top. Some people who've been in this space for 3 cycles and they've missed 3 tops, and they're not going to let it happen again. So people are ultra paranoid. We're going to look at some data around that, some timing of that, some methods to deal with it, as well as some data, which means we may not even have a top. It could just trundle on forever, because this time is a little bit different in many different perspectives. But before we jump in, Mando, how are you this fine day?
I'm doing fantastic. I know the market's red, but it's been, still been a decent little period here, and I'm not that worried.
Yeah, still up 2% for August, which is normally a flat month, so we're still ahead. And it's funny, the psychology of Bitcoin swinging to 124 down to 115. Like it's a $9,000 swing, but in percentage terms, it's actually not that big compared to history. Marty, what are you up to, my friend?
Oh, all good. Had a good weekend. I'm not worried at all. This is not what tops look like, so we can talk about that.
Great stuff.
I'm great. I'm great. I got a great perp in at the bottom there, waited for it nice and patiently. 50% pullback, got in. Let's go.
So you're doing what I do. I like to revenge trade Wintermute. Is that fair to say?
Wait for everyone else to get liquidated. Just wait for everyone to get liquidated, and that's where you enter.
Exactly. And Mobbot, you laughed when I said that. Are you perping on the side?
No. Well, maybe. Yeah. No, it was a great weekend for it. We had a really good opportunity for a big short, and then now we're in a long, and it's fun to watch when the manipulators come in, because that actually makes it a little more predictable where it's going to go.
Exactly. It was unusual for them to strike on a Sunday as well. So tell us a bit about yourself, Mop. The audience may or may not know you. I know my community knows you very well.
Yeah. So 4 or 5 years ago, I knew nothing about crypto, knew nothing about trading, was going broke fast. And after finding James in the world of crypto, things have really turned around, and using his indicators and trading the stock market and crypto markets has made the future a whole lot brighter for me. And I am all about bringing that kind of bright future to anybody I come in contact with. I like the connection. So that's what I'm doing. Lately, I've been trading. Like I said, I still perp a little bit, even though it was kind of devastating last year what happened, because I was new to perping. I didn't know what it was. It just seemed like really a great way to make a lot of money. And doesn't always work out that way, especially if you can't see that trend changing coming up the bend. But now that I know what to watch out for, I'm a little better at it. And I'm still trading MicroStrategy and Tesla. Jumped into my first leaps this past month, so I'm really excited about that. Good. And just trying not to overtrade and trying to be more disciplined about it. That's the hardest part.
Exactly. Less is more, especially around perps. Waiting for those prime opportunities is great, but trading on the short time frame can be dangerous because you miss the macro picture. Well, let's get into the story. Thank you so much for joining us, Mop. And we have the M cubed, as I'm going to call you guys. Brilliant. So the story today, we're going to talk about a lot of different things. First of all, that was the intro. Missed that. Bear market preparation. Everybody's freaking out here. Mando, I'll go to you first. I know, last time we spoke, you were thinking, well, maybe we run into 2026. Some of the data does point to that as well. What would you tell people now? Because everybody thinks every time we go to a new all-time high, we fall off. It's the same story. It's like, okay, that's it. That was the top. Pack your bags, go home. Move to cash. Sell everything. Or move to something else like a treasury bill or a JLP. What do you say to people right now?
Yeah, it's interesting that that's even like suddenly the topic. I feel like ETH has done very well, Bitcoin's done very well, even Solana kind of hit 200 last week. I think it probably points to the idea that this hasn't been the best cycle still for a lot of different people, but I think there's still been some very strong spots throughout. Over the last week, I said what I was going to do, and I did it. I kind of reduced a large bag of my ETH into Bitcoin, and that's generally what I do. I kind of felt as though the market run decently well, and you started to see kind of crazy estimates coming up on 16K ETH being called about and all this sort of stuff, and I just felt like it become a bit more consensus. But when I want to go more defensive, I move into Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance has gone below 60%, right? And I think in a period of weakness, you could see that rebound a little bit, and you can pick your spots. I don't think we're anywhere we're really going to see like the end of the bull market or anything like that. And I think we can go higher, not just for 2026. I think we can go higher for many, many years. But I think there's just points in time where you just feel as though things got a little bit frothy. And that's why I moved into Bitcoin for this exact reason. Do I think that ETH could go back to 4K very easily here? Do I think Bitcoin could go to kind of that previous level of support, which is like 112, again, very easily? If it bounces slightly higher than last time, you've just put in a higher high and higher low, but we're probably in for a little bit of a going sideways period. What has been surprising is the decorrelation with 12-month or 12-week lag or 10-week lag, whatever you want to use, money supply. That's really broken down versus the chart there. Like if you were to follow that, we should have been at like 140, 150, and we're not. But I do still think that the underlying use case and reason to own Bitcoin is incredibly strong right now. So I don't think any sort of sustained period of weakness. This feels more like a leverage flush. We didn't really see stocks move that much lower this morning, for example. It just feels as though you can catch people out pretty easily when everyone's levered to the nines near all-time high.
And you probably saw the big unstaking queues as well for Ethereum, which is always a bad sign.
But is it that I didn't see the net one? It's always that everyone always posts the unstaking and they never post the staking. So I never really know if it's what the
I didn't see
figure
that.
is.
Maybe Marty could look that up for us. Marty, what's your take on where we are, and are people warranted right now to be freaking out? Everybody's now talking about the bear is coming in 4 weeks and 8 weeks. What's your take?
I mean, first of all, this is not what tops look like. Tops are part of distribution, so you would see a massive big pump up, possible blow off top, second head, typical top. We're nowhere near that. That'll come later in the year, I believe, or early next year. I mean, we're back to the trend line. We're basically trading up higher lows on Bitcoin to 125,000, probably around September. It's pretty much the same thing. It was a leverage flush over the weekend. It was pretty much exactly to the 50%. So if you remember, we hit 99,000, 100,000 on, when was it, June 22nd. And we got as high as 123,000 last week, 13th. 50% of that was taken halfway through the month at around the 2nd of August. They ran it back up and they came back down and took the 50% again. That's what they're going to do. People going long, they're bullish. The exchange is going to come take it back. And as a trader, this is lovely. Like, I agree with you guys. I mean, just wait for the flushes and long and take your profit and extract liquidity from Binance. And that's what I've been doing. But we're back to the trend line. We're testing it right now at 115. It's pretty easy if you draw the lows since the beginning of the year almost. We've been tracking this trend line, and nothing's really changed. I mean, we're going into the biggest liquidity cycle of all time, potentially. Starting rate cuts in the 90% chance for the 17th of September, and then the change quantitative tightening, the end of that, quantitative easing, and then we go into the US's round of liquidity injection. Remember, we've just been floating up on global liquidity, foreign injection capital. I think once the US start, all hell's going to break loose, and Binance is going to flush the market. Before that, they're going to take care of all their longs. And there's still a lot to go. I mean, they could bring it back down to that 112. I agree with Mando. They could come all the way back down to the 50%, which is 111,600. Those are the great perps right there. I think 111,500, 111,800 around there. But
and I must say, Marty, by the way, on DCA, either a week or 2 weeks ago, you did call 125K. We came to 124,535. So we got within $65 a year target. So that was pretty handy.
Yeah.
Any words on that?
Yeah, no, I still think 125 is the next step. Obviously, Binance is not going to allow it without a lot of pain. That's just what they do. It's too much leverage. We can say it over and over again. Stop using high leverage. They're going to take the 50x, 100x's every time. No one's going to survive. It's a hopeless task. Keep your leverage low for the benefit of the industry at this point. I mean, it's just obviously clear. The manipulation is obvious. It's tracked on chain. And but I mean, overall spot buying, Sailor bought more today. Treasury companies are buying across the board. I think everything's looking fine. I think people are just worried about that cycle theory, the cycle theory. But when we keep telling them, I mean, everybody in the industry will tell them the cycle has changed.
Yeah.
And it's
different
hard
players
to believe it.
Different players. Yeah. It's a bona fide asset class, different money, different macro cycle. Last time around in 2021, 2022, we're going into the teeth of rate hikes. Now we're going to the teeth of rate cuts, which puts everybody risk on. Thank you for that, Marty. Mob, this is the jelly chart that has everybody very nervous. The cycles tells us we have maybe 8 weeks to go, 90 days to go, depending on who you are, where you are, how you measure it. The previous two cycles literally landed to the exact day. But when you look historically at the mean reversion of the 200-day moving average in the Bitcoin price, we were like 15% above the 200-day moving average. Historically, back in long time ago, 2017, it was 4 to 5 times the 200-day moving average, and then it was 3 times the 200-day moving average in the last cycle. Now we're just at the 200-day moving average, which is very bizarre. So tell us about what you are telling your people. And this is a little piece from you about your outlook on Bitcoin and profit taking.
Yeah, so there's a lot of mob mentality when it comes to the sky is falling in crypto. It just takes one tweet to catch fire, and it affects everybody's well-being and feelings when things go south like this. But absolutely, having a profit-taking strategy, it provides, number one, risk management. So you're going to set up a plan so that you don't have to guess at where you're going to exit. You don't have to wait. Okay, is this the top? Is this the top? Is this the top? So if you actually make a plan and set dollar figures where you're going to pull your profits out, you're going to do better. Again, these are all different goals. Some people don't want to cash out their Bitcoin. Some people like to hodl it no matter what because they're afraid of tax implications or it just feels risky to trade. But if you remain static, holding that same crypto, you're going to hold it all the way down and all the way back up, and you're letting go of a lot of opportunity for profit taking. So whether you trade or not, the market's going to go up and down. And this is something that's happened for the past 16 years. And the fact that this time might be different doesn't mean we're still not going to have our ups and downs. So for me, I am still having a little trouble letting go of my Bitcoin, but I have no problem letting go of Solana, and I have no problem letting go of MicroStrategy. So I've been using the profit-taking model to figure out where my entries and exits are. And there's so many different ways you can customize it to where you want to enter and exit. At the very end, there's usually a little bit left over here. And that's what I'm always calling the potential moon bag. So even if you've exited through all the layers that the profit-taking model gives us, you still have that little bit extra. So if it does go to 200,000, if it does go to 300,000, you still got that little bit, and you're not feeling as much FOMO as you would have if you had cashed everything out at lower levels. But yeah, if you cash out at profit levels, instead of holding that same 5 Bitcoin, in this example, I started with 5 Bitcoin, instead of holding that same 5 Bitcoin all the way up and all the way down again, you can take your profits along the way. And at the bottom, we're hoping we see, at the bottom, another 70,000. Some people think we're not going to go under 98,000. I don't know. But it's good to know that when you do get to that point, you have some cash to buy back in.
Yeah, it's funny. that approach. And it's funny what Mando said. He's kind of de-risking his ETH bag because he felt it was getting a bit frothy from things he heard. And there's a couple of points I'd like to mention. That everything that you all said is when the mob all thinks the same way, that's not what happens. The mob is always wrong. Okay, you got to blaze your own trail. The other thing that's kind of interesting is the actual tailwinds that we have right now. And I spoke with a friend of mine yesterday. He's been trying to get into Bitcoin for 6 years, but it's always been too expensive. And he tried to get in at the recent 80K dip or 75K. And then when it fell down there, he didn't have the courage to pull the trigger because he's always going lower. So we have a big ton of pent-up demand of people who've been watching Bitcoin for a decade and never got in. Mando, have you ever come across those people before? They've been watching. They're in the markets. They see it. They're kicking themselves every single day. And they're waiting to enter. But they haven't had the courage to pull the trigger or find the actual layer. Thoughts? Andy, you're muted.
I know lots of those sort of people, and they never buy whenever it dips. And I always text and be like, hey, this is your moment. And they never do. And they'd almost prefer that it all just continues to go lower. Do you know what I mean? Like, they felt they've missed everything.
Permabears.
A 10, 20% dip isn't what does it. They need like a 90% dip for them to like feel that they want to get involved again. So I think there is a bit more institutional buying this time. So you don't have to rely on like just retail. So we're going to see a consistent bid to all these things. It's kind of why I think that we're not going to see the state of the pullbacks of previous cycles, and why I don't believe in like the 4-year cycle sort of thing. It's just because I think the market has shifted. But yeah, I'm kind of one of those people, Mopbot, who originally I used to move back into stables, and now I'm just kind of a believer in holding Bitcoin. So when I want to de-risk, I generally move it into Bitcoin. I always have a slice of stables. I have like 15% roughly always in stables for buying like horrific dips. But in terms of my risk portfolio, I generally just move it back into Bitcoin because I've been very bad at the psychology of that, of like not just owning Bitcoin, even in the depths of despair.
So you're not into the melting ice cubes, Mando, the fiat short term.
I mean, I have a little bit of fiat always because I always think, you know, like if March happens again, people forget like the total crypto market cap was trading at 2.4 trillion in March, right? Yeah. We're now at 4, or we broke through 4 and now we've just dipped below. Like we based the whole crypto market cap 2x basically since March. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't make money from that, I just don't even. I feel as though you need to either make sure you're holding majors or you're very disciplined on the dips to buy. Exactly. Because I think people tend to only FOMO in when you're then going through the highs, and that's when they get wrecked. Like we were all on this podcast saying, look, the discipline here is when you buy the dips. It really is. And then it's just like you said, a good profit-taking model, like you said, Mopbot, from there. I think we probably could have another one of those. I'm not saying we can't. September's always volatile as well. I've just said, you know, I think Bitcoin could easily go down to that 112 area. If that's going to destroy your portfolio, then I don't know. But like, I think expect some volatility for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, good point. Now, we'll share some data here now about why we might actually be early. First of all, this is from Archie. Gold is 2.2% of global wealth, which is $1 quadrillion now. It used to be 900 trillion. Now it's $1 quadrillion. For the kids at home, how many zeros is that? The answer is a lot. But real estate is 37%. Bitcoin's only 0.2%. And there's a lot of stress happening in the real estate world right now, all around the world, not just China, but across Europe, across the US. I just saw stats on Denver, Colorado, literally Austin, Texas, taking a massive dump. Arizona as well, markets that, Marty, you may be familiar with. But this tells us we're still a little bit early. Other crazy stuff. This guy, I don't know who he is, the Trump boys, and Lutnick are loading up in a big way. They know something is coming. They wouldn't do this otherwise. And they bought $2 billion already. Then you've got Schwab coming to crypto. They have $8 trillion under management. And the customers have been banging the table looking for exposure to crypto, which is bonkers. And then in terms of the treasuries, Marty, you mentioned this. You got Metaplanet, want to get to 210,000 Bitcoin by 2027. That's what I call a perpetual bid. They can buy literally a year and a half of issuance if they can execute that plan. One player can buy a year and a half of issuance, and 210,000 Bitcoin is basically, all that the long-term holders can possibly sell left to go in this cycle. And then you got this brand new breaking news, another company called Amdax. Shout out to the Dutch people. The Dutch love crypto, but they want to buy 1% of the total supply, 210,000. And I'm not even talking about MicroStrategy or BlackRock or the other ETFs. It is absolutely bonkers. Marty, over to you. What do you think about all of this? Could this bring about Mando's thesis that we run long 2026, or like the gold ETF up for 8 years only?
Up only forever, man.
I've been doing this for a long time, guys. Since the beginning, I've heard all of this, bearish takes, selling. Should I sell? Should I sell? You're selling into a depreciating currency. You're selling to the worst currency in the world. It's just going down your purchasing power. The minute you sell, you're losing money. What are you going to sell into? You're selling into cash. That's just the wrong idea. Obviously, keep some cash for a rainy day. Keep some dry powder to buy dips. Obviously, we all practice hedging here. The show is called DCA. It's not called the All-In Podcast, okay? We have cash in the bank. We have everything. We have Bitcoin. We have execution layers. We have the best of breed. That's what we do. And so you're never in danger of being completely wrecked. If you are in danger of being completely wrecked, you're doing it wrong. Start again. That's the problem. I don't do that. I've round-tripped my Bitcoin now for 3 cycles. What I found is that with my community of thousands of traders, anybody that tries to time a top and exit Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum always buys back higher. It's a 90% rate. So, and plays a tax burden on top of that, so you lose. That's just not the way to do it, in my opinion. You use perps or other ways to accumulate more. The goal is to get the most amount of tokens by the top of the business cycle, the ISM, which is probably around Q3 next year. Until then, all you got to do is focus on your token numbers, not your dollar numbers. If you're pricing crypto in dollars, then you're just in this asset class to make more dollars. I'm not really about you. That's not my thing. So token numbers is what I look at. This is a great opportunity to get more tokens right now. We've just got to watch Binance, wait for them to take the leverage out of the system, and that's your opportunity. Keep doing that over and over, and you'll do fine. That's my opinion. As far as the what's coming in store to support Mando's thesis, guys, the affordability of houses in the US has never been lower. The reverse repo facility has never been lower. They're down to under 30 billion. We've got clearly Jerome Powell on his way out, and either Stephen Moran or maybe Besant himself. We're going to have a very different Fed. We're going to have a mega stimulus movement in the USA, and a high proportion of that money is going to crypto than ever before. It's the most bullish time of all time. If you get suckered out by a little bit of Binance manipulation, then this asset class is probably not for you.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned rate cuts and JP and Besant and everything else. He's under a lot of pressure and a lot of dissent within the Fed right now as well, all the little committee members. But we are pretty much guaranteed 50 basis point cut by October. September is a question mark. There will be a cut in September, but is it 25 or 50? If not, there'll be another 25 in October. That's what the market says. That's what's happening. And that has a lot of goodness for the actual market. So again, September, always the first couple of weeks of September are always nasty, volatile. That's when you need that little cash to buy those dips. But then the second 2 weeks in September is normally good. And we have that confluent with the rate cut, which will fire up the markets too. And the earnings are crazy because of a thing called AI. AI is actually shaking up a lot of things, which we'll talk about in a minute too. But nothing but goodness here. Mop, back to you. These two gentlemen believe there's lots of tailwinds, lots of demand. It's a very scarce asset. Where do you see things going?
No, I'm there too. I see that it's a scarce asset. I also see that there's a lot of volatility and a lot of FUD out there. So I am watching for dips. I'm watching for every opportunity to accumulate because I haven't been accumulating as long as you guys have. So I'm a little behind in my game.
Yeah, actually, on that note, a lot of people think they're too late. Like we mentioned, the guy has been trying to buy Bitcoin for 6 years. Is there such a thing as being too late? I always say better late than never, like the old adage says, not my quote.
I mean, someday it's going to be too late. Someday it will be.
Yeah.
But you guys, I mean, in IA, you started a lot of things in early 2021. And I came in right around that time, but I was too chicken to start anything until later. And I'm finding that there's always new opportunities. You're always bringing new assets to everybody's attention. And it's never going to be as great to get into Bitcoin as it would have been when it was $100. It'll never be that great, but it's still going up, and there are other cryptos coming in. And yeah, it's never too late to start.
Good point. All right, let's get back to the story. There's a lot of concern, as I mentioned, regarding the actual rate cuts because of a new IPO called Circle. Circle and stablecoins make a lot of money from their returns on treasuries. And a lot of people are freaking out. Well, if they cut rates, does that mean Circle are destroyed because they're not going to make as much revenue anymore? Well, the math is very simple. If there is a 50 basis point cut, which is what people expect this year, yes, it will impact earnings, but only by 12%. Remember, well, you saw the trades this last week on Circle. We went ballistic, got in at 150. It shot to 190, hedged, went back to 150, all in the space of hours. It was bonkers because of this type of fear and FUD. Another crazy things happening related to Circle, too. We can't have to mention the elephant in the room. 1.25 billion has been minted on Solana in the last 7 days, and 24 billion so far this year, which is a lot of money to be minting. And Solana is the #1 chain for Circle usage. So again, we're kind of seeing TradFi, crypto all coming together. And the truth is, crypto is not going to TradFi. TradFi is coming to crypto because that's what they need to stay alive in the future. Any thoughts, Mando, on Circle, rate cuts, stable coins? They survived ZIRP, zero interest rate environment. Are they going to survive this?
Yeah, it's just a cost game, really, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I don't know how much it costs to run a stable coin. I remember when I initially looked at Circle's numbers, I did think their cost was slightly high, but tethers are just maybe are just smaller or something like that. But we've seen other crypto companies like Gemini showed us their financials last week, and they have very high salaries and expenses. But if you're losing money as a stablecoin issuer with free revenue coming from treasuries, I think you're somehow doing it wrong. I think Circle is a very good business model. This is why everyone's trying to issue their own stablecoin. So, and I don't think we're in a world, if I'm honest, where we see rates go to kind of where they were, like 0% or 1%. Like things, at least not for a long time, or kept that low for a long time. But if that were to happen, I can imagine there can be some FUD around Circle, but I don't see that happening. I think it's a pretty stable business model.
Yeah, it's funny because the most profitable company on the face of the planet is Tether. The most amount of profit and revenue per employee, nothing comes close. And that got the attention of the JP Morgans and everybody else. And that's why they're all coming out with their stable coins. But the way it works with stable coins is first mover advantage is very important. Tether won that. USDC has taken over in emerging markets for payments and transfers, which is a big use case. Marty, what do you make of all of this? I know you have a Circle bag.
Yeah, I think Circle's perfectly fine. Ran up to 300, pulled back 50%. That is the most golden rule in all of trading. It's always going to do that. The market makers always take back 50% of what they put in. And so it's at that 140, 150 range. Perfectly fine. Great entry for anyone new. But yes, absolutely. Their primary revenue model is interest on their treasuries. And if the rates cut, they will lose revenue. How will they make that revenue back? Well, they're probably going to make their own blockchain and try and generate revenue that way. And they just announced that. So, they're looking for creative new ways to try and, create revenue, just like companies like Chainlink, etc. They got to find a way to make money. I mean, we're moving from a speculative world into a fundamental world, and that means you have to generate revenue. If you're not generating revenue, you're not a business. You're probably not going to last. So, and that goes across all L1 blockchains and L2 blockchains. If you're not making money in 2026, you're probably going to not last. So Circle's got the same problem. I think that they have a lot of backing, obviously, from BlackRock. They have a lot of cash. They're apparently a part of the digital dollar strategy, part of the US strategy to get out of debt. And I think they're going to do fine. I mean, what I like is if you just looked at the new stats from Token Terminal yesterday, 50%, let me go and get it, 50% of USDC transfers are now on Solana. That gives you a little idea about what's really going on under the scenes. I always tell people, you know, they always say, oh, you know, institutions will always use Ethereum for USDC and stablecoin movements because of the liquidity. Well, that's changing, guys. I watch the chain every day. The liquidity on Solana has gone up now sufficiently, and institutions like fast, cheap transactions too. They also don't like to wait 15 days. So that's happening. I think that could happen, and it's starting to happen. And I believe that's going to go parabolic. There's going to be a massive move, institutional move to start using faster, cheaper networks for liquidity movement.
In fact, I've heard in emerging markets there are people that are trying to transfer like amounts less than $10, and they end up using this without even knowing that they're using this. You know, best, cheapest, fastest. And you're right, because one of the most important things in traditional markets in TradFi is finality. That magical 100 milliseconds. You can't wait 15 minutes to check if you've made $1 million trade or not. And back to your point, monthly active users, 10 million people use Circle on Solana. It's the dominant chain too. So I think a lot of people think, oh, security. No, speed, security, cost, they are all the key factors. And then we have Japan coming in too. They're announcing their new stable coins. So this is a race to stable coins. And what Besant also understands, Scott Besant's job is to sell treasuries. He knows the only way he can sling treasuries is to get mass adoption of stable coins that are dollar denominated. Nobody understands that better than that guy, because that's his job. Mando, I see you nodding there. Dollar dominance, stable coins. The US administration understands the importance of that. They don't want a BRIC stablecoin. They don't want a Euro stablecoin. They want everybody in the world, in Indonesia, to use dollar-denominated stablecoins. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we were saying this, a year and a half ago when I first started doing this show, that this should have been very obvious for US foreign policy that stablecoins could be big. You're now starting to see some other countries, I think, play catch-up. Japan is looking like they're going to have a stable coin by the fall. I think South Korea's got a stable coin bill going through right now, or it is about to be introduced. They're all going to have their own stable coins for sure. Anyone that's embracing crypto realizes that this is the new market for selling treasuries too, if I'm honest. So it makes sense for economic security to do it. I thought that was a big headline, that both them and South Korea seem to be pushing pretty quickly into stable coins.
I agree with you. I think that's a big thing. The yen, the Japan lead to South Korea making their own stable coin. It's going to lead to Vietnam, Taiwan. It's gonna go crazy. I mean, if you look at the stablecoin supply chart, it's pretty much mapping global liquidity. It started to pretty much correlate identically. It's turning parabolic in front of our eyes. Yep.
It's gone up, I think, what was it, 12% in the last 30 days or something. But let's look to the week ahead. There's a couple of other elephants in the room before we get further in the story. One of the things, when there are things like peace talks and war, it puts a lid on price action. And there is that meeting with Zelensky and Trump today. The last one didn't go so well. My big question is, will Zelensky wear a tie this time around? We're not too sure. But anyway, it's pretty clear. We know what the other side wants, and we know what one side wants. The question is, can Trump broker that peace deal? This would be great for the markets if they can. You know, the people in power like wars because they can make money off it, but the global economy makes more money when there's peace during peace times. Any thoughts on this, Mops?
Only that we haven't had a black swan event in a good while, and I'm hoping to avoid them for the rest of the year. It would be nice. But yeah, I haven't been following too much of this stuff. I'm waiting for JP to speak on Friday. That one I'm a little bit worried about. every time we think we're going to have great news from him, he's just been stomping all over our trading grounds, and it just makes it harder. But yeah, that's all I've got going on in my head this week.
Well, JP has two mandates: jobs and inflation. He can't control inflation, and the job market sucks badly. If he doesn't see that, he needs to be taken out of his position ASAP. It's bad and it's getting worse. I've been ringing the alarm, as you know, since 2022 on this, but now it's accelerating. Mando, week ahead, anything? Is this keeping a lid on markets? You're muted again. Let me.
I said traditionally this is meant to be a very quiet period for markets, right? Like the reason why Jackson Hole is big is because the Fed doesn't speak normally for the whole of August. Normally Congress is out, Senate's out, everyone in Europe's on the beach. It's normally a pretty quiet period, but so Jackson Hole is kind of what you tune in for. I think we still have a 70 to 80% chance of a Fed rate cut at the moment. Next month, maybe we get slightly better clarity on that going into it, or at least maybe even past that. It feels like
above 80%. It's 80%, which means it's in the bag.
Yeah. So maybe he's not going to say anything too controversial. Like, I think there's been enough forward guidance that this is likely to be a rate cut. Interestingly, like what did set off this initial sell-off was PPI. That miss caused us to dip, and then we've kind of not really recovered since then. So maybe we get a little bit more security, let's say, around that. But to be honest, like other markets haven't really reacted. Like it's been pretty quiet for other markets. This just feels like a leverage flush in crypto to me.
Exactly. And markets have been pretty stable. In fact, Bitcoin has been stable up until last week. The price of Bitcoin was the same week before and a month before. It's like a completely flatlining. So this is a tiny dip, but we're still up 2% for the month of August for Bitcoin. And other things are beginning to happen on the AI side. Some of the AI laggards are beginning to pick up steam too. But just to hammer home what Manda said, the reason PPI rattles markets is because they think high PPI means Federal won't cut, which means risk assets won't pop. It's that simple. So that's where we are. Now, we touched on this in the beginning, but it's very, very important. And it's another top topic of how people deal with markets, whether it's buying or selling. And I thought this was important because we're hearing a lot of requests about this too. And Mop, I'd like to give this to you first. We touched on it very briefly, having a process, having a structure, having a profit-taking model and layers, having a goal, having a plan, having a rotation plan. I'm very big on rotations and layers. But how do you deal, or how do you tell your people? By the way, before I forget, links below for everybody here. Mando's newsletter, Marty, you can watch on all the channels, and Mops details are below as well. Yep. But how do you help people with FOMO, FUD, listening to the mob, toxic crypto Twitter, full of misinformation? And how do you overcome paralysis and fear?
So, yeah, one of the biggest things to overcome paralysis and fear is to watch your show, of course. But yeah, you bring the numbers, you bring the history, looking at the charts and looking at the history. It's like the tides in the ocean. Everything goes up and down, everything mean reverts. So if you can put your trust in the fact that these charts, the world, economics, everything has a rhythm, then it's easier to get in tune with that. One of the best things to do is chart things, to keep track of your trades, to plan ahead. And I used to say, when you would ask me, where's the price going to go? And I'd be damned if I know. I don't know where price is going. I don't have a crystal ball. But even without a crystal ball, you know that things rhyme and they come and go. So you take your chances on small things first and get in there and give it a try. That's all I can say, is that it's worked for thousands of people before you, and there's no reason it wouldn't work for you too.
Marty, your community, degen traders mostly. I've been on your spaces.
No. My community is mostly prop traders, entrepreneurs, exited people, people trading $100 million. I've got
but they have no fear. They have no fear, correct?
No. We have bulls and we have bears. We have it's much like a decentralized hedge fund. We have both directional plays always. We do options, we do crypto, everything. It's like Axe Capital, but a decentralized version. I think this week is very pertinent, guys. I mean, we've got a lot of things going on this week, and typically on Sunday night, Binance will pull down the market and take all leverage out over the weekend, back to where we were on Friday when CME closed, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. But remember, like I always say, whenever there's positive news in the macro, they're going to flush leverage longs because people go long on positive news. So this Trump peace deal with Russia, I think, is imminent. We've got 30,000 troops from Germany and France coming to the borders over the next weeks to sort of be there in preparation for this potential peace deal. These are all positive things. They're going to be spun as fear-mongering, but they're very positive, and so you should expect the market to come down slightly before it goes back up. We've got Saylor buying more Bitcoin. We've got the Hayden Davis scandal hearing in New York tomorrow, which is good for our industry. Criminals beware, get out of crypto. And then the Wyoming thing, we've got a big conference going on in Wyoming right now. We've got Paul Atkins there, the SEC chair. We've got Bauman, the Fed. We've got representatives of all the primary networks. It's a massive, big thing that people aren't aware of. It happens every year, and a lot of things will come out of that. We've got the Google event on Wednesday. China's rates come out, FOMC meeting minutes on Wednesday. Waller of the Fed talks at the Wyoming symposium. He flies in for that. It's a big week. Then jobless claims on Thursday, and Walmart's earnings. Don't sleep on this. Walmart's earnings on Thursday night. Walmart is a huge indicator for the U.S. economy, and that's going to lead into Jackson Hole, right? So on Friday. So I think it's a big week for speculation, and it leads up to that Jerome Powell speech and his tone, whether he'll be hawkish or dovish.
But by the way, Marty, I'll press you on Walmart earnings because it can be interpreted two ways. The one way, and I'd like to know which way you interpret it. One, if Walmart earnings are good, it means everybody's poor and there's a recession because they got to go to that store because they're the cheapest. Or number two, if their earnings are bad, we're toast. Which way
exactly. Is it? Exactly. If their earnings are bad, we might go into the Jackson Hole with a very different Powell. That's my point. I think that event on Thursday can really set the narrative for the Friday tone of his call. If Walmart earnings are down, that might be the nail in the coffin. He's going to have to stimulate.
Okay. We also had another piece of big news. Marty, I'll keep you on this one. Fastest chain out there over the weekend, new all-time high. Max recorded TPS 107,664. Mert and everybody was on fire about this one. I mean, this is just literally all of the changes they've made to the technology. Maybe you can talk a bit to that about the compression and throughput and bandwidth and speed. Quite remarkable. And this is just with Frankendancer, which is the gateway to FireDancer. So tell us a little bit about what you thought about this news.
Yeah, I mean, Solana is just absolutely on fire right now. There's two validated teams that are working pretty much competing with each other. You've got Anza, which run currently the majority of the validators, and then you've got FireDancer, obviously on the way to coming up to their first release of actual FireDancer from Frankendancer. But the bigger news is the SIMD 0326, the Alpenglow consensus protocol update.
Yep.
Voting has started on that, and that's a full stake vote. Solana is by far the most decentralized in that way. Any change to the protocol, they have to get a 2/3. That's 66% of stake has to vote. We lost the last vote for reducing inflation. But this is even a bigger vote. This is coming from Knip, Slawinski, Wattenhofer. It's a massive, big Anza proposal to introduce an entirely new consensus upgrade, which they've been testing in testnet extremely successfully, doing over 100 TPS on the Anza validator, let alone the FireDancer validator. And this update will bring the finalization down to the 100 to 150 millisecond range. It's similar to the Mr. SETI on SUI. With the advent of Rota. And so it's massive. And it starts on epoch 840, I believe. We're on epoch 835 right now, so a couple more epochs. Each epoch is around 2 days. So in the next 8 to 10 days, that voting will start, and we'll be very active on the timeline. I'll be reporting on it. But the code is done. It's ready to go. So if the vote goes through, Solana will get a massive upgrade. It's already 70% of all transactions, and those transactions will just become faster.
Marty, and that's 70% of all crypto transactions. But can you explain to the audience, because people get tripped up, can there be multiple validator protocol technologies?
There must be.
Yes. Okay.
And just remember, the blockchain is kind of like a database that lives in the memory, the virtual memory of all of the nodes. And the validators are a piece of software that manipulate, manage, add blocks, and do consensus against that single blockchain in memory. And there should be more than one. I mean, the problems with Solana in the beginning that got a lot of the FUD were because they only had ANSA. They had one single validator. So if they wanted to upgrade a major update to that validator, all nodes had to go down, update the software, and restart. And that was seen as a Solana going down moment. And that was the same with Ethereum back in the day. When Ethereum just had the foundation validator, it also went down. I mean, when I was an Ethereum developer, there were 2 weeks sometimes when Ethereum was down or spotty or slow. It's normal. This is just the way it goes until you get your second validator and your third. And Solana will have 4 very soon. They'll have light validators as well. So these are just problems because remember, if you have more than one validator, you have redundancy. And guys, just so that you know, in the industry right now, it's very well spoken. We need more than one blockchain. Okay, so I'm a big believer in Solana and Sui being the 2 blockchains that provide stablecoin, real-world asset, and tokenized value movement. And we need them both to be up. So we have redundancy, we have a backup. If one's down, the other one's working, and things like that for a high-speed economy and high-velocity activity. So the advent of more validators is the most bullish thing for Solana because it means it's not ever going to go down again. It's not. You'll never have to have a full node restart without other nodes running another version of the validator. So this is all just. Solana is going gung ho. There's so much going on. So much.
We had this little bit of news over the weekend, which Saturday night it did alarm me a little bit. Maybe that's why I lost my voice. It's like the Finkster is now the new interim head of the WEF.
Oh my God, that's the biggest news, James. That's the biggest news. Larry Fink replacing Schwab. I mean, what the hell? Mind blown.
Yeah, so you cannot overstate, and I think of myself as a bit of a paranoid person. I always like to look around the corner, but after we've seen the WEF, the Davos, by the way, I used to spend a lot of time in Davos back in the day, it's like, they only look out for the billionaires up there. Not that came out wrong. Forget that. Anyway, you own nothing and be happy. You're pushing digital IDs and all that type of stuff. And they're still saying the quiet parts out loud all the time. The Great Reset, the research, they've pushed it all out. The world will look very different in 2030. And I have to be frank, I read a lot of the WEF economic research. It's pretty darn good, but the end message is pretty darn scary. The big question from Alpha Gamer here and question from me, BlackRock, Larry has control over 750,000 Bitcoin, and there'll never be more than 50 million Bitcoin because so many are lost. Mando, is this a worry for you, or could Larry Fink be going into the WF to change it and make it better?
Thank you. Yes.
I don't know about that. He's been pretty tied to it for a while, but I mean, what else do we want for Bitcoin really at this stage? Like, you have Trump spinning up vehicles to buy Bitcoin. Like, I think Bitcoin has gone mainstream over the last 12 months. Maybe it hasn't quite in Asia, as we're starting to see, and in Europe in certain bits. But like where the real powers of international capital are, it's going mainstream at the moment. So I think it's only good for Bitcoin. Do I think it's going to be a huge marginal gain? I don't know. It doesn't. It feels like Bitcoin's already there with most countries. I kind of agree with you. It's like slightly dystopian, the tone of their research, and doesn't really help their PR. Let me put it that way.
Mops, any thoughts on the Finkster?
It surprised me. It surprised me that he would align himself with that group, knowing
he's
what
always
I know.
been there. He's always been there, by the way.
Well, but he hasn't been in the. He hasn't been in the. I guess as part of the organization or a leader in the organization Most of the time when we see him in mainstream media, he's more the BlackRock, the leader BlackRock, buying Bitcoin, bringing ETFs to the market. And if you look at how polarized people are about the WEF, it surprised me that he would jump into it like this, knowing that he controls so much of the
money.
Yeah,
Biggest money runner in the world.
exactly.
Biggest asset manager. Yeah. And also, when you look at how the WF is structured, if you look at global leaders, whether they are influenced in places like Australia or the Canadian guy up there, I can't remember his name, he's full on WF school. Even though Trudeau was before, this guy's even more extreme. And you got Frederick in Denmark, you've got the Nails in the UK administration too. I mean, their reach is deep in leadership. They haven't quite infected the US yet. Next thing we'll hear is Besant is part of the WF. Then it'll be like facepalm. But hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, I just want to get that question out of the way because that definitely was a concern. Let's talk about one of the final topics, which kind of relates to this somewhat. And then we'll take some live questions. I'm trying to talk less. There is we're seeing, we know AI is going to change the world. It's going to change everything. You've got guys like Reinhardt and Rogoff believe, like you mentioned, Mando, at the beginning, the end of the low rate era. Economies, governments, they are tapped out. Their debt is going to continue to explode. We're going to move to what I call a UBI nation, where more than half the population of many countries will be living on handouts from the government, and they're going to vote in socialists. It's just how I believe it's all going to work out over the next couple of years. Now, the debt cannot be serviced or sustained unless there's going to be extreme levels of taxation and financial repression. We're already seeing earmarks of that happen around the world today. We've had a lot of talk, a lot of chatter about taxing unrealized capital gains, going after inheritance amounts and everything else. Governments are going to be desperate to tap money from people. Mando, I'm going to talk to you first because a lot of your network has probably been exposed to some of this taxation, repression, etc. Thoughts on what the future will look like and how, most importantly, how the audience can prepare for this. Because by the time it happens to you, it's too late. If you cut $10 million in crypto and then your government wants to take all from you, what are you going to do? How do you see it all playing out?
Yeah, look, I think it's something you have to be kind of cognizant of. And it's very difficult to hide from it at this stage, because even some of the most respected countries, 10, 20 years ago for fiscal prudence are now hitting over 100% debt to GDP. They have millennials now starting to deal with the majority of the tax burden from baby boomers, and they're a much smaller bit of the population, and it's going to be a bit nasty. So I do think you do need to consider where you're living. You do need to consider the assets that you choose to hold during this period, both from a return perspective and a taxation perspective. There are some assets, for example, that you can invest in which are more tax-free. But this is, I've moved for this sort of stuff before, and I think you're going to see a lot of this. Like right now, I think the UK saw 16,000 millionaires leaving the last year.
Yep.
Right. The world is very easy for people to move around in. So I think it's going to be, you're going to see big flows of people, not just capital, as these sort of things start to rear their head.
Yeah, so a lot of times I used to do a lot of real estate investing in the 90s. One of the things I tracked was flow of people. What cities are going to be hot? That brings about the most capital appreciation for real estate. Marty, we're seeing a different type of thing happen around the world. We're seeing two types of flows. We're seeing open borders and lots of third, fourth world country people flooding Western countries, which brings down the GDP per capita and doesn't add a lot of value to the economy. Some people believe, not my thoughts, but some people say that. And then you've got the other side of it, the people with the money, they're fleeing to tax-free jurisdictions, destroying and ravaging the tax base of these Western countries that now have to give out welfare to lots of new guests. And then birth rate is getting clobbered. Young people aren't getting married and having kids. They can't afford houses, which is a nest. So if you look at human nature, it's all kind of tying in together. How bad is this?
I mean, we talk about all the time. We're going through the greatest wealth transfer of all time, right? The boomers can't escape entropy. They're going to die. And they're dying, it's a parabolic rate right now. And all that money is going to their heirs. And what are the heirs going to do with it? It's going to be something very different. At the same time, we've got a labor market that's being thoroughly challenged by AI and technology. And you've got a declining birth rate, which, we can argue all day. Did it come about from cultural reasons? Does it come about from natural reasons? Is it because of economic reasons? Because people can't afford children, they can't afford homes, so they're not having children? We don't know. But I think the most important thing for people to understand here in this space is that financial repression is coming. You mentioned it, James, and I think people should start studying what it is. It started in 1944. They did it. It always comes around this time when debt to GDP hits 120. Our current debt to GDP in the US is 124. It's at a maximum high. Last time it was this high was in World War II. Okay, now something's got to break. So, you're hearing things like gold repricing. You're hearing things, obviously, quantitative easing, capital controls. And that's why I go back to the whole statement. So you want to time a top and sell, the scarcest assets in the world to try and time a top and sell into what? The dollar, which is ravaged with capital controls. Doesn't matter if you've got $1 million in the bank. If you can only take out 500 a day, you only have 500 a day. Capital controls are serious. They're happening. The only thing to do to protect your wealth is either have self-custody crypto or physical gold. Everything else is a counterparty and will be under the effects of capital controls. This has happened before. It's going to happen again. Prepare. Physical gold. A lot of people do physical gold. Self-custody crypto. Not on exchanges, not in ETFs, not wrapped by anything regulated, okay? That's called regulatory capture. You want to get self-custody assets. Hedge, get some of your wealth into self-custody or physical gold. And you mentioned it, foreign countries. A lot of people are leaving and moving to other jurisdictions. That's their way of protecting their wealth because to get away from capital controls. That's it.
I wonder what type of wheels you have in your suitcase going through airports, Marty, carrying all your gold around. Mop, what do you think of this?
I know stories of people that have put all their money into gold and been turned away at the airport and had to leave it behind. This happens.
Yeah, I just have to say it. We know this is coming. I'm quoting my favorite Marty Party guy. We know this is coming.
It's coming.
It is something that. Yeah, because Mr. Mops is a little bit of a prepper. We do keep off-chain or offline crypto hard wallets. And it is something we've been working on for quite a while. Even before, I used to say when we had nothing, I wasn't afraid of anything. But now that I have won something, it's you have to protect it. You have to be sure it's there for you when you need it. And I don't want it repressed and taxed to pieces. We did for ourselves move to jurisdiction with fewer taxes so that we could stack a little faster. If you can find the things in your lifestyles that you can put aside for a little while so that you can get to that financial freedom a little faster, whatever you can do to do that, I'm for it.
Yeah, well said. Prepare. Doomsday prepper supplies.
Where's my hat?
It's funny because there was a time, I think C19 triggered a lot of stuff too. People moving out of cities, moving to rural areas, moving off grid, getting solar panels, getting Starlink, getting self-custody wallets. All of the ingredients are there to be self-sufficient. And now with all the stuff that's happening in some Western cities, people don't want to be in cities anymore. And if you look around the US, for example, I don't know about other parts of the world, there is a glut of condos for sale in the cities. And then the condos themselves in places like Florida, they can't pay for insurance because it's so expensive. So they make the HOA fees for the condos be really high, like $1,500 for what you could otherwise rent for $1,500 a month. People are trying to rent out condos to try to cover their HOA expenses. It's crazy. Guns and food and yeah, they're from Kellen Star. Good point. Cold storage, cold food in your cold storage with your wallet. I don't know. But let's see if there's a quick question we can take. Thailand is heaven now. Yeah, Thailand is getting busy, and Thailand just embraced crypto as well. tourists
Yes, they
could come
did.
in and spend their Bitcoin. Marty, tell us about that.
The Thai, Thai have been printing money and have a very pro-Bitcoin government. They've been talking about strategic Bitcoin reserve there for the longest time of all. Thailand is definitely a crypto haven right now. A lot of people are moving there. I mean, guys, it's all about can you store your wealth in something that you can take with you if you leave a country. You know, I'm from South Africa. This was the theme for 10 years there. They did financial repression. They didn't allow you to move more than $100,000 out of the country, and so there were a lot of creative ways to move money, and you can't believe all of the corruption and fraud around that. And Bitcoin is the perfect vehicle, self-custody crypto. So most South Africans are exiting South Africa with Bitcoin, and it works great. You can travel anywhere, sell it for local currency.
Yeah, you say that. Like I have a friend, and I remember it was 10 or 12 years ago, maybe even further back. He spent 5 years trying to get out of South Africa. And he ended up getting a job at a Fortune 100 in the US that had a big office in the Netherlands. And he got transferred out of South Africa for the job to move to Amsterdam. Now, the funny thing is, he still has his money back in Rand in South Africa. He can't get out. And he has real estate down there that he cannot sell. And this is 15 years ago. I wonder how bad it is now. And this is like a canary in the mine for what we're talking about, financial repression. Anything to add to that, Marty?
No, well, I think it's people. First of all, understand retail. The average man in the street has never been broker since COVID. I mean, we haven't printed new liquidity. People are on their bootstraps. They're working several jobs, and so it's a tough time. They can't afford assets. So I really feel for them and people heavily in debt as well. Yeah. But they need to start accepting the reality, the adult reality that financial repression is coming. Okay, the debt is unsustainable. And so even if it's a little bit, whatever you have, move your savings out of the bank and put it in self-custody Bitcoin. Just do it for you. Just do it for your future. And as far as accumulating more crypto, obviously here we are with a pro trader. Learn to trade. Learn financial knowledge. Start to understand money. This is the time. And if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? The horizon is coming. The time horizon is coming. The fourth turning. It is a matter of time. And when we see the copper to gold ratio, right? Do you know the copper gold ratio? It's like one of the biggest indicators for smart money to know the bottom of the business cycle, called the ISM. Everyone should learn the ISM. The ISM is a key indicator as to when we will turn, we will run the bottoms and the tops. And copper to gold is showing us right now we're at the bottom. So just understand it's not going to get much worse. All you have to do now is learn how to protect your wealth, because the government is going to put capital controls on it. Go ahead.
And sometimes it's hard for people to leave their countries. The question here regarding what's Rand doing in South Africa from crypto batteries. Sometimes people are stuck in certain places for certain reasons. It's hard to move. I always say enough money gives you wings to fly. Mando, interesting world, a lot of change happening. And one of the questions I always think about now as well, and you mentioned the traditional metric, Marty, the world is changing so fast. Things like the SAM rule, unemployment, AI, data center build-outs, demand for certain types of assets are changing the way we look at traditional metrics and ratios. Do you agree with that, or should we still cling to the past?
Those sort of ratios?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think they're useful as a guide. They're maybe not. I think sometimes they get overanalyzed as like the only thing that determine. Like we've spoken about that even in crypto, right? Like some assets just are valuable and they are very, very strange.
Exactly.
For example, this week Link looks like it's rising, and one of the exact pictures for Link is kind of that it's a bit like XRP. It's got like this big mimetic like group behind it, and you kind of think, oh well, I've seen this before. If you look at it on a revenue multiple or anything like that, it doesn't really quite make sense. But I think there's lots of different things that can drive assets. I'm fully for this conversation we were having before, though. Like I think that the what you pose at the start, that our government's going to be your friends, I think for the next 20 years, probably the next 50 years, they're going to be increasingly not your friends as their public finances break. And you've got to start planning for it now. Like, I'm a big fan as I've said before, like I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, like real world assets, let's say, which aren't bought through leverage, and particularly like rare items. I think like as AI creates this world of abundance, the idea of like handmade rare items, I think is going to go up quite a lot. So I'm a believer in those things.
Yeah, it's funny. There used to be a thing. I remember watching movies, and you'd always have people ready to jump at the drop of a hat with a go bag. Mop, what would be in your go bag apart from your hardware wallet and maybe some cash? What else would be in your go bag? Because that's something that, if things really get Orwellian, I don't know, Larry Fink, WS, this whole conversation has gone down a very dark path. But what's in your go bag? And does everybody here have a go bag?
Mr. Mop calls them tools, but but I don't know if I want to say here online.
Do they have bullets?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if times get that bad, somebody's going to come after anything you have. So now that I have more than $1, I've got like $2 whole. Somebody's coming after that extra $1. So the go bag definitely includes some ammunition, the hard wallets, and like 3 changes of underpants.
Yeah. Good. And if you're in the WF, actually, they recommend sharing underpants too, like cars. So it's one of the. Oh, this has been a fun one. Yeah. Oh, it was a joke I was kicking around earlier in the week. There was a Danish, one of the top Danish, I think Frederick is her name. She's saying we should have a car. We should share cars, one car across everybody. And in Denmark, there's very few cars anyway because taxes are so high on cars up there. It's bonkers. So with that, everybody, final thoughts for the week. We're at an hour already. I want to thank everybody for coming here. Links below. Huge shout out to Mop. Great having a refreshing point of view. And Mr. Mop is a doomsday prepper. Love that. I think we all secretly are, because one of the things that's very important in investing is to be able to look around the corner. And when you look around the corner, the type of things that you anticipate are kind of scary. Mando, thoughts for the week ahead? Beach time or hunker down?
I think you might do better looking at charts a little less over this period, because the volatility in crypto is high versus the rest of macro, and you can read into very small things in a big deal. Fully expect ETH to go to, I actually really think ETH's going to hit 4K again. And I think Bitcoin has a high chance of kind of going back to that previous level of support. But I don't think this is the end. I think it'll be crazy on the timeline when it happens, but I don't think it's the end.
So after selling your ETH, part of it, are you going to get back in at 4K and ride it back up again?
The part of the reason is it's not like I think the ETH trade is necessarily over. I just think the volatility of a market, of an asset that goes towards all-time high picks up a lot. Think about when Bitcoin starts getting towards an all-time high, it always picks up the volatility. So, and it was just straight lining. So I'm looking to deploy back into things during vicious dips. And I bought a little bit of stuff this morning. I didn't buy ETH, but I actually bought a little bit of Link. I bought a couple of other things. But
what did you call mnemonic meme coins?
I've seen it before. We've sat on this show and gone XRP's not going higher, and it's gone higher. And Link, they've started a buyback.
Actually,
buyback, and I'm like, well, I don't know. They've got the same things. I bought a little bit of that, not a huge amount, but I'm just keeping it mainly in Bitcoin at this stage.
One of the things I wanted to bring up was I don't know about everybody else, but I unstaked my Jupe coins just because it takes 30 days to unstake, and I'm thinking they're going to hit their highs pretty soon, and I don't want to be watching the highs go up and then watching it fall as I'm waiting at 6 days left to unstake. So maybe if that's a thing, you guys want to.
That reminds me, I've got a lot of stake Jupe. In fact, it's my biggest Sol alt position, but I've also been getting into drift and hype as well, because these are the product market fit use cases that are making all the money right now. And I kind of traditionally follow the money. So I don't follow the mnemonic meme hype stuff that Manda does. I can't do that.
Fun getting involved with this stuff.
Exactly. And the different points of view make for a great story. Marty, what's your thought for the week ahead?
Let me summarize. Let me go back to the questions. My go bag is my Solana phone. I think the Solana phone is the greatest invention right now in the world. It's basically a self-contained bank. I still use a Saga. I have my Seeker on the way. The Saga is the most amazing phone ever made. when you got it in your hands and in your pocket, you're carrying your money. There's no bank involved. I've got a credit card, that stablecoin credit card. I can spend the money instantly whenever I need to. I trade on it. It grows. It's a fantastic device. I highly recommend everyone get one of those. Once it's in your hand and you're traveling the world, you're free to do what you want. You're independent. You have your agency. Mando, the Ethereum validated coin QNet, it's 886,000 ETH ready to be unstaked and 276,000 to be staked. So that's a net of around 600,000 ETH to be unstaked. And as far as levels for the week go, everything pulled back. If you just follow my liquidation levels chart and 50% pull down chart, you'll see we called 115,400 on Friday. So it came down exactly to 115,400. Solana 182.64 was the line. You can just follow on my charts. 366 on SUI. ETH 4,300, Mando. I know your 408 number. It's very clearly the 50% pullback. But 4,300, I think, is the strength. And it's bouncing right off that 4,300 right now. So I'm optimistic these lines are the bottom or somewhere around there for the next move up. We're following global liquidity almost exactly. If you look at the lag, anybody that argues that, I don't believe it. You can look at my charts. And for hyperliquid, I think we should come down to 42.50. If you want to get into hyperliquid, I think 42.50 is your entry zone. XRP bounced off the 299. Everybody freaked out. Wow. That was the 50% pullback. We called that as well. BNB has been leading the market because it's obviously, Binance makes most money in crypto every day, and they put it into BNB. That indicator started running early and has started again, which is usually an early indicator they're going to start to move Bitcoin up. And so obviously the whole of crypto will come back. But Binance does have an $800 50% pullback potential. So ETH at 4,089 and Binance at 800 are possible low targets we could expect this week. But as far as I'm concerned, I'd say there's a 60-70% chance the numbers I just rattled off are the bottom. And this is a great time to buy spot crypto across the board or to get into perps right here.
And a big thank you. By the way, big thank you to the mods in the chat. And by the way, we always promise a DCA pump on Monday. Over the last 1 hour since we began, I have the timer here. Bitcoin's gone up $1,200. Not a lot, but it's $1,200. So it shows like we've been bottoming since 5 p.m. yesterday. That's when the clock starts. So thank you, everybody.
One final thing. Another key thing happening right now is that the CME has a proposal to go 24/7, 365. If the US CME starts to trade crypto,
tokenization, baby,
we won't get these gaps, and these weekends will become so less dramatic on the Sunday night. So look out for that. Everything's getting better.
And that's another feather in the cap for Amanda's thesis of up forever. If we do go to that and we go to 24/7 markets, the only way they can operate is the tokenization of everything. And that means they have to run on one chain. That's it.
There you go.
QED. Thank you, Mando. Links below. Thank you, Marty, for everything. Mop, such a pleasure having you here. Nice brand new perspective. Really cool.
Mando, my boy. Guys, I'll be in New York for a couple of weeks in August doing some amazing things with some amazing projects and some big news coming out. But I got spaces tomorrow. I've got Caesar. It's an AI company that are tokenizing. I've got them on the space. We had Mill City, a SUI Treasury last week. You should listen to the recording. The alpha in that is staggering. And then we've got obviously DeFi Development Corporation and the huge SUI Spaces space this week with the Denny and the founders. So follow along there.
By the way, Sanjay has been going off on Caesar all yesterday with me. So we need to dig into Caesar. Expect to post on that later today.
I locked him down tomorrow. Come ask James.
All right. When you're in New York, Marty, will you still be joining us? 10 a.m.?
Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Okay, good stuff. Awesome. Thanks, gang. Thanks again, Mops, for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.
Have a great week.